November's Eve for most of us hunters. What that means for the TrophyPursuit.com staff is that all of our summer work, all this fall scouting that we've done, and even some of the hunting that we've done up to this point is over, and it's time to get after these bucks hard. The rut's starting to kick in. As you've probably noticed, some of our staff members have already harvested bucks at this point. One of my goals this year was to go out and acquire a brand new farm and start from scratch and basically do all the homework all summer long on a new farm and see if I could develop a hit list and eventually harvest one of those hit list bucks. With that in mind, I've got a hit list that's full of a lot of mature deer, so I don't want to go through each and every one, but I do want to touch on a few that I think are very killable on this farm and bucks that I really want to harvest or would be top of my hit list at this point. If you've been following along all summer, you probably already have an idea what some of these bucks are. So I'll start with the bottom of the list right now in terms of bucks that I think I'll shoot given an opportunity. The first buck that comes to mind would be a buck that I call Bully. He's a really old, probably 5.5-year-old plus 8-pointer. He's not going to score very well. Up above him, a buck that comes to mind is a buck that I call Knothead. Now, Knothead's a buck that we identified pretty early in the summer, and he had a pretty consistent pattern on where he was bedding at, where he was feeding at, and he's got one core area, and since he's shed his velvet, he's hung out in that same core area the whole time, and we actually got some photos of him here at dusk on a scrape right where one of my tree stands is at. So I think he's going to be a killable buck. He's probably a 4.5-year-old 8-pointer. He's got some stickers on his bases. He looked a lot bigger in velvet than what he does now. But that'll probably be a tree stand decision for me, depending on how the hunt goes. If it's, just one of those hunts that stands out in my mind and everything falls into place, I may put an arrow through him. Or, when given a better look at him in person, I might decide to pass on him and give him another year because he does have potential to grow. So that's probably the number 4 buck on my list right now. The number 3 buck that comes to mind, it's really a kind of a toss-up. These top 3 bucks of mine, all of them, in my opinion, are my number 1 hit list buck. But if I had to pick a number 3, it would probably be Brutus. And the reason for that is because I think Brutus is 4.5 or 5.5 years old. He's definitely a mature buck. He's got all the makings of a Boone Crockett whitetail. He's a 10-pointer. He's got junk on his bases. He's a gnarly old buck. I got several pictures of him all summer long, including some great video. He was hitting one of my cameras or multiple cameras almost every night. I've since moved those cameras around because they were just on a food plot area, so I'm not exactly sure what his whereabouts are right now. I don't have any pictures in the month of October of that buck, but I know he's in the area, and I know he's going to be moving through some of these funnel timbers, as I like to call them. So, but my number 2 hit list buck is actually going to be a buck that I call Titan. Now, everybody's probably going to think I'm crazy for saying he's my number 2 buck, and again, these top 3 bucks, I really don't care which one it is. I'm not ranking them in order of how big they are. I'm just ranking them in order of huntability and what buck I really, really want to get after. And Titan just comes in at number 2 right now. And Titan definitely is a mature buck, but he's only 4.5 years old. He is one of those deer that could just blow up into something to be 200 inches plus easily. He's already pushing that 180-inch mark, maybe more. But I've only got one series of photos of him at this point. So, again, he could very well be hanging out on the neighbor's property, but is a buck that could very, very easily hit one of these funnel timbers, and I could definitely get a shot at him. Right now, my number 1 hit list buck, and I'll give you a lot of reasons why he's my number 1 hit list buck, is a buck that I call Too Tall. The reason why we gave this buck the name Too Tall is because he has 2 tall brow tines. And he's just an 8-pointer with giant brows and a little bit of junk. He's also a buck that's starting to show up pretty regularly on my scrapes. And in fact, I've already got daytime photos of him in the morning on one of my trail cameras. So not only do I think he's very huntable, but he's by far one of the most unique deer I've seen in terms of this farm. He's moving during daylight hours. He seems to have hung out in the same area from summer through that fall scramble. And I think he's going to be in there. So those are the bucks that I'm going to be after here the next couple of weeks. Make sure you check in with TrophyPursuit.com here daily. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go ahead and do that. We're going to be bringing you live updates from the field, most likely from the tree stand. We're going to try and give you as much real-time information as we can handle ourselves. So it should be very exciting. I think you guys are going to like what you see here over the next couple weeks. Stay tuned. We're going to be knocking down some big bucks.